The welfare reform U-turn by Keir Starmer's Labour government is not only a matter of policy detail, but a revealing episode in the practice of power, party management, and social justice. And it's a moment that exposes the promise, the tension, and the limits of current Labour practice. The welfare reforms began as an attempt by Labour to demonstrate fiscal prudence and tackle what ministers described as an unsustainable rise in disability benefit costs. Without reform, spending on working age, health and disability benefits was projected to hit £66 billion by 2030, and the flagship measure was to tighten the eligibility for personal independence payments, that's PIP, and cut the health-related element of universal credit. And these changes were forecast to save nearly £5 billion by the end of the decade. However, these plans sparked uproar among Labour backbenchers, disability campaigners and local leaders. More than 120 Labour MPs threatened to rebel, accusing the leadership of pushing people into poverty and failing to consult those affected. Faced with revolt, and the Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall has announced significant concessions, and the government promised that no existing PIP claimants would lose their support. Stricter eligibility criteria would only apply to new claimants from November 2026. Additionally, the universal credit health element will now rise with inflation for existing claimants rather than being frozen. These changes have slashed the projected savings from by about half, from £4.8 billion to roughly £2.5 billion by 2030. Kendall defended the U-turn as listening and acting on legitimate concerns, but she also framed it as a necessary effort to ensure the welfare state remains fair and sustainable. But the concessions have not ended the rebellion. Labour MPs like Debbie Abrahams warned that disabled people with long-term conditions could still lose out, and critics described the reforms as creating a two-tier system where two people with the same condition diagnosed weeks apart might receive different levels of support. Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, said the changes didn't go far enough, insisting the bill would still drive many people into poverty, and Andy Burnham in Greater Manchester went further, urging Labour MPs to vote against their own government's plan, calling it a half U-turn that risks deep unfairness. Outside Parliament, a petition against the cuts was signed by over 77,000 people, and disability groups voiced fury at the lack of meaningful consultation. In Parliament, Labour MP Richard Burgon suggested a 2% wealth tax on assets over £10 million that could raise £24 billion a year, 10 times the savings targeted by these welfare cuts. Politically, this is the largest Labour backbench rebellion of Starmer's leadership so far. It dwarfs earlier revolts on planning reforms. And the government expects around 50 MPs will still oppose the bill despite concessions. Insufficient to defeat it, but enough to embarrass the leadership and show the party's divisions. Opposition parties and even some Labour MPs see the whole process as chaotic. Conservative leaders like James Cleverly mocked Starmer for running away from confrontation with his MPs, while Kemi Badenoch dismissed the final compromise as an unserious welfare reform. It also leaves the Chancellor with a new fiscal headache. Combined with the other U-turns, the concessions have blown £4 billion worth of a hole in Labour's already tight budget projections. There's talk of tax rises to fill the gap, something Labour has promised to keep minimal. So this U-turn tells us much about Starmer's Labour. It wants to prove itself fiscally responsible, yet remain the party of compassion. But the tensions between those goals are obvious. More deeply, it reveals a government that won power with discipline, but is struggling to hold it with vision. As one commentator put it, Labour knew how to win office, but not how to govern. If Labour is serious about rebuilding Britain's social safety net while balancing the books, it needs not just concessions but a compelling sustainable theory of the welfare state, one shaped with, not against, those who depend on it.